Let me just start off by saying that if you're an action figure collector and that new Batman action figure didn't just bring tears to your eyes, like if you weren't tasting your salty tears and your disgusting mucus, then there's clearly something wrong with you. You need some sort of like very intense therapy, or you're secretly a robot but you just don't know it yet. But in all seriousness, how do we even start today's video? This is pretty intense, okay? This is pretty groundbreaking. Now, look, personally, I have not picked up any of these InArt action figures. However, I have seen a lot of unboxings, I've seen a lot of reviews, and apparently this is supposed to be like a really good overseas manufacturers. They're doing an absolutely phenomenal job. And if you guys have been paying attention to the channel, you guys know that I've covered at least a couple of these figures. Now, one of the most notable recent offerings was the Dark Knight Christian Bale action figure that they offered not too long ago. And now they're coming back around and offering another phenomenal looking Batman. We're looking at the Arkham Origins iteration, which honestly is probably my least favorite Batman video game from the Arkham series. They just didn't use the same formula. It felt a little bit barren. It felt a little bit empty. It just didn't feel like the Gotham City that you get in all of the other Arkham video games. But this thing looks absolutely breathtaking. There's something so unique and something so special about the way that InArt designs their Batman action figures. I mean, there's a ton of sculpted detail. You can see a lot of armor pieces mixed in with soft goods. They also include like a decent array of articulation, but really the big point of emphasis, or the thing that I took away the most from the InArt action figure line thus far, has to be their balance. Like they balance the figure incredibly well to where the sculpt work is top notch, but it doesn't limit the articulation too much, at least not to the extent where the figure wouldn't be able to pose realistically, because let's be honest here, most of the Batman suits that have ever been designed, whether it's in comic book form, video game, or live action, they're very cumbersome, they're very thick, they have some pretty intricate designs that actually limit the range of motion for whoever's wearing the Batsuit. So it just makes perfect sense to me to have good solid articulation, but also not skimp out on the actual sculpt work. And I think they do a phenomenal job with all of their collectibles. And this is just a prime example of how good an action figure can look while simultaneously still keeping its posability. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm a little bit disappointed that they went with Arkham Origins just because I have very little attachment to that particular game, although it does open the floodgates to other different characters from that particular video game, whether it's Killer Croc, whether it's Deathstroke. Although in a grander scheme of things, I do feel like they should maybe dip into the other video games of the franchise. I'm not sure if they have only exclusive rights to Arkham Origins, but I'm hoping that they do like an Arkham Joker with some soft goods and maybe a Harley Quinn, a Jason Todd perhaps. I mean, the character list is endless, so I would like to see them kind of dive into it in the future. I will say there is a slight problem if you live in the States. Unfortunately, there are certain countries or certain regions where they can't actually ship out because of, I'm assuming, like the rights. There are certain manufacturers here in the States or in other countries that have exclusive rights to DC collectibles at a particular scale. And unfortunately, the States and a few other countries are a part of that. So if you want to actually order this figure, there are avenues, but you essentially have to have this figure rerouted somewhere and then shipped to wherever your location is, if you reside in one of these locations. But I think it's worth the extra hassle. It's worth the wait. This figure looks absolutely phenomenal. And by the way, this isn't the first time that they've done it. Almost every single offering in that 1/12 scale has been absolute brilliance from them. So definitely keep an eye on this. This should be going up for pre-order this weekend. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on two extra collectibles from McFarlane. I'm not going to dig too deep into these because they're kind of lower end collectibles. And honestly, I was a little bit torn about these when they first got announced, because even though I do feel like it's pretty creative and cool, I don't know, it just feels like he's trying to venture into a realm where he doesn't really belong. For the most part, we know him for comic books, statues, and action figures, and he's kind of trying to enter like a little atmosphere of collectibles, similar to like Funko Pop. A lot of people have compared his little Todd Mod figures to Funko Pops because they're similar in scale, they're similar in style, and they're on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of collectibles. These usually retail anywhere from like $10 to $15. I've seen them on sale for a little bit under that. So if you're looking for something small to just kind of throw in your desk or have as a background character, I think these are great examples of that. We are supposed to be getting a new Darkseid as well as a Cyborg action figure, or collectible I should say. They're not really figures because they don't articulate. He has done a few of these in the past. He did, and I'm going off of recent memory, I think he did like a Batman, he did a Bane, a few other characters. So it's nice to see him continue to flesh out that roster. And look, if he's going to commit to this little tiny subline, then I guess he should go all in, right? There's no point in releasing 3 figures and then pulling punches. I'm assuming that he did have at least a decent amount of sales and people were at least remotely interested in these collectibles, and that's exactly why he decided to kind of come back around and give the consumers a few more figures. So if you guys are interested, definitely keep your eyes on these. I feel like once the DC universe is ended from McFarlane, I think this could be a little bit of a sleeper line, like because so many people are just not interested in them and they're not manufacturing like a ton of them. I haven't seen them like at multiple different retailers. I think I maybe saw them like at a GameStop and maybe like an FYE at some point. So they're not like widely available. I think once the DC line ends from McFarlane, I do feel like these could be one of those collectibles that has a very, very small release. And so I feel like maybe they become a little bit more scarce. So if you guys are interested in something like this, as I said, it's something creative, it's something new, it's something cool, out of the ordinary. It's definitely worth a try if these are remotely appealing to you. And then we don't really cover DC statues on this channel, but a couple of them kind of popped up on my newsfeed and I decided to give them a little bit of love because they're kind of interesting. The first one is this 1/10 scale Superman. This is supposed to be a red and blue accent Superman and is supposed to be, I guess, a limited edition. I'm not sure how limited it is. The description really didn't get into too much detail about the limited availability of this, but I'm going to assume that there's probably only a few thousand out there. Now, the interesting part about this is the price point. This is going for roughly $170 depending on the retailer, give or take, but that's essentially what you're looking to pay. Most of these retailers, or the smaller retailers I should say, usually expect a little bit of a deposit. Sometimes it's like $15 to $20. It's non-refundable, but it locks your pre-order in. As I mentioned, $170 for a 1/10 scale statue from McFarlane. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is here. Is it heavier? Does it have more girth to it? Is it made with, completely different material? Maybe the plastic that they're utilizing here is much more expensive than what he's doing, like for example the Marvel statues, which are usually about 1/10 scale as well, but they're usually retailing for about $30. So again, I don't really know too much about statues. I don't keep track of them, but I thought, hey, if somebody's really a big Superman fan and know about statues, maybe this is something that's up their alley. I do like the pose. He's in flight. It looks cool. It looks iconic. I love the cape flowing in the wind. It's absolute perfection. Not to mention it's on a stand, and there's just something really cool about seeing a Superman in a mid-flight pose. You just can't top it. They also have a new J. Scott Campbell 1/8 scale Batgirl, and I have read a lot of comments that are bashing this particular version of Batgirl just because of the color scheme. I think this is a newer color palette, if I'm not mistaken. Originally, she was in that black and yellow. I could be mistaken, but I think most people were just complaining about the color scheme and they just didn't like it. Aside from that, the pose, the hair, it's a really well sculpted statue, and because it is a much larger statue, I'm assuming it's closer to like 10-11 inches, it's gonna have a slightly heftier price point. You're looking at about $200 depending on where you're ordering it from, but that's the consensus in terms of the price, and it is set to release in June of 2026. The Superman also has a similar release date, and I will say it's really weird seeing a lot of these release dates moving or inching closer and closer to 2027. I'm not sure exactly when McFarlane officially loses the license, but it's going to get really interesting towards the end. I'm not sure if he's allowed to schedule action figures that overlap with Mattel maybe releasing their first wave, but it's getting closer. My anxiety levels are through the roof right now. I can't believe we're this much closer to McFarlane finally losing the license. I don't know. It's a bittersweet bittersweet moment. I'm very excited to see Mattel take on the DC license yet again, but it's also going to be a little bit sad seeing McFarlane move on from it as well. But as I said, I don't want to ramble too much. This was kind of a more condensed video, and I talked about collectibles that we don't usually cover on the channel because we're mostly action figures, but from time to time I'll sneak in some statues or things like the Todd Mod line, which I think are pretty intriguing. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to see what all of you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comment section. I know I've been pushing it pretty hard, but if you guys want to check out our other channel, we just uploaded our top 10 best animated movies of all time from the DC universe. We're very proud of it. It took us forever to put together. There's a ton of research involved and a ton of work. I do have like an insane amount of action figure hunts coming at you guys. Usually I've been doing one action figure hunt a week, but we're spiking it up to potentially 2 to 3 a week just because of the holidays. We are planning on picking up a ton of collectibles, and apparently Ross's are getting absolutely slammed with action figures, so I just have to see for myself. So stay tuned for that. If you guys enjoy this type of like rambling action figure content as well, we're doing it on a daily basis. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the hobby. Pose your action figures. Play around with them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.